So if you own a Z, you know that your windows will roll down when you double tap the unlock and hold on your key fob, right? Let me tell you, there's nothing more embarrassing when you're out on a date with a girl. You say, hey, watch this. You pull out your key fob and the windows don't go down because your window motor, it just does what window motors do in the 350. And she looks at you and goes, what's it supposed to do? And yeah, let's go fix that shit right now. So thankfully you don't need a lot of tools for this job, but I'll show you what you need and shouldn't take too long provided we don't have any problem. So let's do it. All right, 4 things that you're gonna need to change your window motor. Number 1, socket set and your sockets. You need a 10 mil and a 12 mil. If you don't have a 10 mil because you lost yours, go buy a bunch because you'll need a lot. Flathead screwdriver or a trim tool if you have those as well. And also a Phillips head screwdriver so you can get the bolts off the actual window motor. All right, so when you're replacing your window motor, it's easier if the window is down all the way. Mine is currently not down, so let's see if we can trick it into going all the way down. All right, so the easiest way to get your window to go down is to either shut the door while you simultaneously hold the button down, or to hit it right about here next to the handle as you push the button down. You want to make sure that you don't use the auto down function, because if your window motor is bad, sometimes your motor will kick back up the window halfway and then you have to repeat the whole thing over again. All right, so the first thing you want to do is take your flathead or your trim tool and pry off the silver lining of the handle here. We're going to do this on the passenger side since this is the side that it's broken on, and just try not to scratch your interior here because it's pretty easy to do so. All right, and then just pop this guy right on out. There we are. All right, once you have your handle off, there's going to be 2 bolts on the inside of your door handle. They're both going to be 10 millimeters, but you get your ratchet, get your extension, so go ahead and take those out. All right, and once you have those bolts out, the handle should just pop right out. So next you're going to go ahead and pop your switch panel off. It should just pop right off pretty easily, honestly. Go ahead. Once you have that off, go ahead and disconnect your wires from the back of your window switches here. Mine are pretty stuck, so I just grabbed my flathead to kind of pry them out of there. There we are. All right, so after you pull that window switch off, you're gonna have 2 10 millimeter bolts, one right here on the left side and then one all the way right here on the right side. All right, so go ahead and pull those out. And the last thing you'll want to do before you can remove the door panel is there will be a little black piece, little black trim under here underneath the door handle. So go ahead and pry that out, and then there will be a bolt underneath that you take off, and then you're ready to take off the door panel. All right, and then once you have that little trim piece off, there's the bolt in the back that you need to take off. That one's a 10 millimeter bolt as well. All right, so once all those bolts are taken off, then you can start actually removing the physical door panel. Door panel is just held on by some clips that go all the way around the outside. So just go ahead and start prying those out. Again, helps if you have a trim piece here, but not completely necessary. And then it just kind of lifts up and off of the door. All right, so once you have your door panel here, make sure you pull off the window switch wires here out from the inside of the door panel, so that way it'll come off. And then the last thing you're going to want to do is just pull off the mechanisms from the door handle, so that way your door panel is completely free. So you're just going to lift up on this guy and then pull him off here. And then the bottom one's going to be the exact same thing. Just lift it up and then pull it off. All right, so once you have the plastic part of the door panel pulled off, it'll kind of look like this. The previous owner had a bunch of weird like speaker wiring done, which is what this box here. So most cars shouldn't have this. You're gonna go ahead and disconnect the wiring harness that's up in the top left with the rubber grommet here. This is the wiring harness for your actual window motor. And then you're just gonna pull off the clips that hold in your wiring for your window switches. That way you can access the metal door panel here. All right, so once you have your wiring all disconnected, you can go ahead and start unbolting the bolts from your metal door panel. So you're gonna have your 2 track bolts at the bottom here, which are 12 millimeter bolts, your 2 track bolts on the top here, which are 10 millimeter bolts, Your window motor bolts, which are these three right here, are 10 millimeters. And then also the bolts all the way around the outside of your metal panel are gonna be 10 millimeter bolts as well. So we're gonna go ahead and pop those off. First ones you wanna take off are your track bolts, the 12 mils and the 10 mils. Then you wanna take off your window motor bolts, which are your 10 mils in the middle here, and then do the 10 mils all the way on the outside of the actual panel. Alright, so once all your bolts are off, you should be able to just pry the panel off here. Mine's pretty stuck because it's probably never been taken off before. Oh, and make sure you pop off the regulator clip in the middle here. That's why I'm having trouble taking mine off. Right, the last thing you're going to do is pop off your little harness here that's connected to the rubber grommet. So go ahead and do that. Once that's off, then you're going to go ahead and push it all through the hole that's behind this rubber grommet here. All right, so once you have the panel off and you have access to the motor, you just need your Phillips head screwdriver just to take off these 3 screws right here, 1, 2, and 3, and then your motor will pop right off. All right, then once you have those 3 screws, window motor should just pop right off. There we are. All right, and then we're just gonna go ahead and pop the new one back in. All right, so go ahead and pop the new one on, and then put your 3 Phillips head screws back in there. All right, so once you have the new window motor on, the first thing you're gonna wanna do is kind of slot it through the metal door panel, and then you can actually start getting the physical door panel onto the car. All right, so after you get your grommet slid through the metal door, then you're gonna wanna go ahead and line up your window motor and bolt that in first. Let's move our door locks out of the way here. Go ahead and line that up, and then you just use 2 hands, try and get the motor lined up with where your bolts go. And just get those started. And then once you've got them all lined up, you can actually bolt the window motor down all the way. All right, so after you get your window regulator bolted up, go ahead and bolt in a couple of the bolts that go on the outer metal door panel, and it should be ready to roll up. So since we rolled the window down before we started this, we should be able to just skip the first couple steps of the reset process and skip right to the end. So what you're gonna wanna do is just roll it manually all the way to the top. Don't use the automatic function, just manually, because you gotta set the parameters for how far up and down it goes. So we're just gonna hold it up until it goes to the top. Then once it gets to the top, you let it go. Now you're gonna have your reset switch on your window motor here. So you're gonna hold that down while you roll the window down, again, manually. Then you'll release the switch, roll it up to the top. And you'll repeat this about like 3, 4, or 5 times, however many you want. So again, hold the button down, manually press it all the way down to reset it. Let go of the button, and then up again. And then once that's reset, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shut the door just to make sure that the window will do its normal rollback, indicating that it knows when it shuts properly up and down. So go ahead and take a look here, shut. And then when we open it, it'll come down just a little bit. So that's how you know you properly reset your window. All right, so after everything's finished resetting, then you can go ahead and bolt in the rest of the 10 mil bolts on the outside of your door panel. So we're just gonna go ahead and fast forward through all of this. All right, so now we're gonna install everything in reverse order. The first thing you wanna do is gonna just take your door panel here and re-hook up your handle. And then once you have your handle connected, you'll go ahead and slide it on. Broken the connectors for my my tweeter here, so we're gonna have to finagle with those while we do this. And then just make sure you feed your back bracket your wire harness through the bottom of the door, so that way you can connect your panel when you're done hooking it up. And then just make sure you kind of put it on from the top and slide it down like on the other side of the window. That way there's no gaps or anything. All right, once you have your door panel slid on, then you can go ahead and connect the outer clips around the outside so that way it's secure. Alright, so after you get the door clipped in, you'll have 2 of your 10mm bolts that go on the side of the door here, so we're going to go ahead and tighten those in. Alright, after you have the bolts in, then you can go ahead and plug in the wiring harness for your switches, and then you can clip that in to the door. When you clip it in, just slide the front end first, because you got this little guide plate here. So you slide that in, and then the rest of it you can just pop in. But make sure you reinstall the 10mm bolt that's behind your door handle. You can kind of see it back there, but it's dark now. I had to move locations, so. All right. Lastly, you should have 2 long 10mm bolts, which will be your 2 handle bolts. So just pop your handle right in, and then go ahead and bolt those in. All right, and then last, you just want to pop in your little trim handle piece right here. Just like that, and then you're all set. You're done. You're good to go. Your window motor is fixed.